Hello, I'm Jeff Cavins. Today we're looking at the scriptures for the Feast of Pentecost. The story of Pentecost comes from Acts chapter 2, and it's when the early disciples were gathered together and the Holy Spirit was poured out upon them. What happened to them that day changed their lives, and it changed the world because it gave them strength. Now we know confirmation as our day of Pentecost. That's the day where the work of the Holy Spirit is completed, and that is the work of baptism is completed in our lives, and we receive courage, we receive power to be true, authentic witnesses, both in what we say and what we do. What's interesting about the readings this week is that this powerful reading in Acts is contrasted with John chapter 19. It's right after Mary Magdalene comes back. She's seen the Lord and she reports it to the others. But it's where they're at and what they're doing that caught my attention. On the evening of that day, the first day of the week, the doors being shut where the disciples were for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said to them, "Peace be with you." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side, and then the disciples were glad when they saw the Lord. And then listen to what Jesus said to them. Jesus said to them, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, even so I send you." And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven. And if you retain the sins of any, they are retained." It's interesting that they are behind closed doors. And we've all been behind closed doors before, locked up. But what's interesting about this is that the reading in Acts chapter 2 is all about freeing us to really be the people that God has called us to be. He says to them, "Peace be with you." To hear Jesus say, "Peace be with you," in the midst of fear, behind closed doors, is very, very freeing. When we hear the word peace, we're not talking about just a sense of well-being, but we're talking about a complete well-being, an inner well-being, a peace that only comes from God behind closed doors. And I hope you hear that word today. Jesus also says something very interesting. He said, "As the Father sent me, so I'm going to send you." As the Father sent me, I'm going to send you. And you may remember early on in the Gospels, in Matthew chapter 3, Jesus, he began his public ministry at the Jordan by going down into the waters of baptism. And after he came up out of the waters of baptism, he experienced a confirmation as the Holy Spirit came upon him and empowered him to begin his public ministry. And so, as Jesus began his ministry, so we begin to minister in this world. We begin to be Christ in this world. But the key is Pentecost. The key is really receiving that power from Jesus so that we can do the work that he has called us to do. And he is giving us the Holy Spirit. Now, the Holy Spirit is not a thing. The Holy Spirit is a person. And we know that the Holy Spirit also accompanies us in our lives. But the Holy Spirit will give us power to be witnesses. And so this week, look for opportunities. Look for opportunities for you to come from behind the door, the shut door, to go out into the world and proclaim Christ. He'll give you those opportunities, and he'll also give you the power to be that authentic, true witness in everything that you say and everything that you do. Think back once again to your confirmation. Mine, May 1st, 1971. I remember it well, and guess what? God is still working in my life today, and he wants to continue to work in your life today. The Feast of Pentecost.